For what purpose does the Majority Leader, the gentleman from Virginia, rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to speak out of order for 1 minute.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, Americans have watched in horror this week the atrocious news reports coming out of Nigeria. Hundreds of young girls have been kidnapped with the intent to be sold into slavery or marriage simply because they had the courage to seek an education and a better life. Just this past weekend, I watched my daughter, not much older than these girls, graduate from college. As a parent, I cannot imagine the suffering of the moms and dads who merely wanted a good education for their daughters. The Obama administration has taken initial steps to help assist efforts to return these girls to freedom and to their families. I thank them for their efforts, and I know all of us stand ready to provide whatever assistance is necessary. Members should be aware that upon our return, we will consider a bipartisan resolution being considered by the Foreign Affairs Committee regarding Boko Haram and these kidnappings. Additionally, when we come back, we will also consider 5 bipartisan bills to take steps toward our ultimate goal of ending human trafficking. Together, these bills provide resources and authorities to fight domestic human trafficking, provide services to the victims, and take steps to deal with international human trafficking. The atrocities in Nigeria have awakened the global conscience and have reminded us all of the evil of human trafficking. It is also important to note that the underlying threat posed by extremist groups in Nigeria and throughout the region is growing. Whether it is Boko Haram, Ansar al-Sharia, Hezbollah, Hamas, or al-Qaeda, it is critical that we in the House work with the administration to confront the growing threat these violent extremists pose to international peace, security, and the protection of innocent lives. In the coming days, as we focus on finding and returning these girls to their homes, may God watch over them and those seeking their return. And with that, Speaker, I will yield to the gentlelady from California, the Democratic leader.
Thank you, Mr. Leader, for yielding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the House this opportunity to speak this afternoon about this despicable crime. And starting, I will thank the distinguished Majority Leader for his remarks, and I associate myself with his remarks in their entirety. That's how important all of this is. I want to commend Congresswoman Frederica Wilson for her resolution, H.R. 573, which says, condemning the abduction of female students by armed militants from the terrorist group known as Boko Haram in northeastern province of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that what happened in Nigeria is outside the circle of civilized human behavior. It is unconscionable, and these despicable acts must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. The capture and captivity of these girls challenges the conscience of the world in a very specific and a very different way. And perhaps that difference can make a difference. I wholeheartedly support the decision by President Obama, Secretary Kerry, and the administration to deploy aid, personnel, law enforcement, and military experts to Nigeria to partner with local authorities to find these girls and return them home. I commend the women members of the House in a bipartisan way, 100% of the women have signed a letter condemning these actions. I salute the First Lady for her Bring Back Our Girls tweet, and hope that members will also be doing that. Because the most horrible form of torture for someone who is held by terrorists is when their captors tell them, nobody knows you're here, who you are, and is even worried about you. We want to remove all doubt every minute of every day. And as we go into Mother's Day, think of those mothers. Think of those fathers. Think of the siblings of these girls. Our thoughts and prayers rest with mothers and fathers and siblings. Of each girl kidnapped and separated from her family, and all the victims of human trafficking around the world. As horrible as it is, unthinkable as it is, it's happening all the time, this trafficking issue. So maybe this horrible, heinous crime gives the attention that human trafficking needs in order for us to end it. And so let us all subscribe to the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls. With that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you again for giving us this opportunity to focus on this despicable action, but to do so prayerfully, hopefully, and determined to bring back our girls. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back to the distinguished leader and yield back our time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The House will observe a moment of silence for these young women. The members will rise.